investigates special report on what many are calling Harris County's broken bond system.
Well, the numbers might shock you. Our team uncovering thousands of accused felons bonding out of jail just to commit more crimes.
In our exclusive ABC 13 streaming town hall tonight, we showed this graphic, a stunning increase in homicides in Houston and Harris County. At least 540 lives lost so far this year.
Now, not all of this is attributed to bond, but some of it is.
So tonight, we attempt to get to the root of the problem because we have seen its tragic consequences up close for way too long.
He can show up at my doorstep tomorrow afternoon.
One of the most egregious cases broke last year. Trent Pascal, accused of killing his wife.
Told her not to mess with me.
He got bond in April. Police say he cut off his ankle monitor and has been committing more crimes. He's still on the run.
I haven't been found guilty of those charges.
I think Mr. Gaston needs to be removed from the courtroom.
In July, Zacchaeus Gaston out on 7 bonds, charged with murdering his ex-girlfriend, shooting her while she held her son on the baby's birthday.
They failed to protect her because she would still be here today if he wouldn't have keep getting out on bond.
The judge who granted bond, Natalia Cornelio, and remember that name because it's going to come up again tonight. The family of Martha Medina turning their pain into purpose. Medina killed during a purse snatching in September. Andrew Williams, one of the men police say was involved, had been out on bond for capital murder. A judge can't deny bond in capital cases. Medina's granddaughter says her mom would be here if Williams had stayed locked up.
We need to tell those judges that we are watching what they're doing and we are holding them accountable.
The bond system even the target of lawsuits. Catlin Infinger Guajardo's family suing the county this summer. Police said the mother-to-be was stabbed to death by her husband just days after he allegedly beat her up. He bonded out of jail without paying a dime, just a promise he'd come back to court.
The very people that were promised to protect my daughter and that promises to protect y'all, that promises to protect our public, that they basically just slapped him on the wrist and let him out to kill my daughter and her unborn child.
So there's a lot of finger pointing at judges, but it's a lot more complex than that. So we want to bring in Ted Oberg into the conversation.
Yeah, so Ted's team looked at every serious Harris County case in the past decade. And the two things that really stood out from your investigation, I understand, Ted, were the fact that more people are getting bonds and you're seeing more of them committing more crimes.
Yeah, and we just saw the effect that has on so many families in our community. The statistics you talk about, Gina, are tragic. All of that true. It opened our eyes to how serious and widespread this problem is. Bail, by the way, is a constitutional guarantee. Accused criminals can't be kept behind bars awaiting trial because judges don't want to let them out, or the community doesn't want to let them out, or because they can't afford to pay bond. It isn't punishment. It's simply a way to try and get accused criminals to show back up for court. But our investigation shows tonight something's drastically changed. A huge percentage of the accused are now getting released on bond back to our streets, far more than any time in the last 10 years.
Norma Johnson is raising 2 kids on her own while holding down a full-time job and unfortunately becoming an expert in the way Harris County handles accused felons out on bond.
I think they're just not trying to fix the problem. They're just trying to avoid overpopulation and not help.
Demetrius Whiting, the man who allegedly abused Johnson, is out on 5 felony bonds right now. Whiting was arrested and charged with the first felony in 2017. He got a second chance to get out of jail and allegedly committed another crime, and another one, and another one, and one more too. Our investigation shows 13,107 accused felons botched their second chance in the last 5 years, a trend that's grown every year since 2011. 10 years ago, less than 4% of alleged felonies were committed by people on bond. 5 years later, it had only moved up slightly, but this year it's nearly 20%. Nearly 1 out of every 5 serious crimes in Harris County allegedly committed by someone our system let out of jail on bond. Demetrius Whiting hasn't been to trial on any of his 5 pending cases. He's missed court repeatedly, and the last time, just last month, court records show he sent a text saying he wasn't coming back to court and that Norma should watch out. Mario Garza is Whiting's most recent bondsman.
The 4-letter F word, I'm not going to court, and the complaining witness better watch out.
The texts are disturbing. You might think the fact that Whiting is out on repeated bonds is too, but Whiting is just one of more than 27,000 people out on bond for a felony crime right now in Harris County alone. It's not the worst one. He's not facing murder charges. He's facing domestic violence charges. But some of that's the point.
The word's out on the street that you can commit crime and you'll either get out on a really low bond or you'll get a PR bond.
Our investigation shows it's happening over and over. Our investigation found 968 accused felons in Harris County who've allegedly committed 4 or more new serious crimes since getting out on bond in just the last 5 years. Those 968 accused felons account for nearly 5,000 new cases. Among the most common charges, gun possession and aggravated robbery with a deadly weapon. Each of those new cases likely causing pain or trauma to a family like Norma Johnson's. And now, Norma thinks it's time Demetrius Whiting goes back to jail.
I think for his safety and for others' safety, he might have to be there.
Bondsman Mario Garza does too. On the day we followed him to the courthouse, he'd run out of patience looking for Demetrius Whiting and was asking Judge Natalia Cornejo to surrender his bond and issue an arrest warrant.
These were the first 2 bonds he got in trouble with.
Whiting's case is in Judge Cornelio's court. His case was there before she took the bench in 2021. She and the previous judge both gave Whiting his bonds. Days later, Cornelio agreed to the arrest warrant, but Whiting is still not in custody. Our analysis shows defendants in 72% of cases filed in Cornelio's court have posted bond this year, the highest of any Harris County District Court judge. She turned down our invitation to talk about bond, saying ethics rules forbid it. So did most other judges. We sent emails and actual letters inviting every single one of Harris County's elected judges to talk to us about what our investigation found. They're the men and women you pick and pay to uphold justice, and all but one turned us down.
When they're here, I treat them as they're innocent. That's what the law requires me to do, Ted.
Yeah, but they already broke their promise.
No. They're alleged to have broke their promise.
Judge Chris Morton was the only judge brave enough, or at least willing, to talk to us. Judges like Morton set bond amounts, some of it science, some of it judicial sorcery.
I'm going to have to leave the bond where it is.
As they search for an amount low enough to allow people to pay, high enough to keep them from taking off and never coming back. In Morton's court this year, defendants in 70% of cases posted bond, released back to the streets, the second highest in Harris County. 10 years ago, in that same courtroom with another judge, that percentage was 40%. It's a huge change.
We are actually following the law now. When I was a prosecutor 10 years ago, judges didn't have hearings, as required by the Constitution, to hold people at no bond. They would just hold them at no bond. We are following the law better than our predecessors.
Morton says he legally can't keep people in jail without bond in virtually every case without a hearing. He let us sit in on one, and the hearing itself took hours.
The state has filed motions to deny bail in a non-capital case.
Morton says in many cases, prosecutors initially ask for no bond, but then back out from holding the hearing, which means bond has to be set, which allows defendants like Demetrius Whiting to keep getting out. It takes a professional bondsman like Mario Garza who's willing to take a chance on them. Garza forces those defendants to check in weekly, and when they don't, he sometimes goes back to the judge.
We all want the same thing. We want the defendant to go to court.
But it also takes someone willing to pay, and in this case, Norma Johnson was.
I wanted my family together, so I bonded him out. It was good maybe for a little while, but then it would happen again.
By the time Johnson was accused of a felony in 2020, he'd had 2 kids with Norma Johnson.
I see a loving father.
She bailed him out, hoping it would be the chance he needed to get help and get right, but then it happened again.
He wanted to get back with me, and I told him I couldn't anymore.
When he allegedly abused her, Norma Johnson wasn't there to bail him out that time. Neither was Mario Garza. But when Judge Cornelio set an amount he could pay, someone else was. And that's happening more often, too. Those rates of bond are up dramatically in every single Harris County court since 2011, every single one.
And so the question is, have judges as a group done enough to keep us safe?
Here's the thing. Because we've been in a situation with COVID-19, people are on bond a lot longer. In the past, the folks who would have been repeat offenders, they would either be convicted or something along those lines.
For victims, COVID delays or more judicial leniency may not matter. Norma Johnson was a victim before COVID. She calls herself a crime survivor now and has a message for these judges and for defendants like Demetrius Whiting.
Do something different. Do something different and get them the help they need.
It is hard to ignore the pleas of victims. Do something different. Let's not ignore one more huge number, the number of people who are complying with bond, or at least not committing another crime, while out on one. It is important to note in the last 5 years, 122,434 people in Harris County were accused of a felony. 89% of them haven't been charged with another crime.